3 phenomenal new announcements on artificial intelligence, which we'll get to, and also the ability to track lineage through bones, not active DNA, through bones, all the way back. And I believe this is probably one of the greatest scientific releases. They've known how to do this, but imagine you could go back to whoever you're related to and check your literal bone signatures against anybody in history, and then if you go back, you can probably take it all the way back to Noah's flood, the period after Noah's flood, not prior to. But the thing is that we had talked about the current events taking place in the newspapers, and I call that now, it's kind of my poor attempt at Latin, but circus distracticus. I believe that this is absolutely the most playpen-like assortment of news coming out that's meant to focus on the minors while keeping our eyes off the major events going on. For instance, you've had Dane Wigington on, and Dane is one of the smartest people I know. We're friends. The geoengineeringwatch.org. If people could understand that the climate manipulation has been an ongoing military endeavor for the past 70 years or more, they begin to understand that you can't just push on planet Earth in the electromagnetic realm without affecting seismicity and earthquakes, etc. Now, we're watching Kilauea going off, and great years ago when I started on talk radio, one of my concerns was all the volcanoes of the world coming on, becoming active, the major ones, at the same time. And there's a cause and effect here with volcanism and weather changes. Then you get the manipulation of being able to steer, control the jet stream, and you can decide what areas of the planet get water and what areas don't. So the whole idea, and that's why I chose the title Terminated, and obviously the background music, and by the way, it's even more sinister than Westworld because, in my opinion, and this is well researched, this book's 420 pages, but it's not the idea of the book, it's the fact that when you draw a conclusion based on the research that underlies obviously what you're writing about, you've got to come to the one point that the elite have been harping on for, 70 years at least now, the decimation of planet Earth with the exception of them through the, category of the elite. I maintain that technology, I'm shaking the desk here, I get excited. I maintain that technology is literally 1,000 years into the future, because prior to the flood of Noah, there was an incredibly advanced civilization, which many of the ancient legends, myths, whether you're talking about Atlantis, Lemuria, Shambhala, all of that, Hyperborea, Ultima Thule, those things don't just pop out because somebody was on mescaline or legalized marijuana or whatever that is having dreams, visions, or doing microdosing of LSD. These are the recorded annals and histories written in stone by some very bright people. So here's the deal. Circus distracticus. And what is happening, we're seeing that the government, you and I talked about this, I think, on a previous broadcast, they have a department of propaganda. And the head of the DHS says, if you don't believe what, not the head, but one of the spokesmen for it, person said, if you don't believe in what we're telling you, you must be the tinfoil hat, black helicopter believing people. So here's the thing. A lie is to be embraced in their world, and anything related to the truth is to be denigrated and ultimately destroyed. So when you're looking at all of the different factors taking place in AI, artificial intelligence, by the way, I call that antichrist intelligence, and I'm talking about a supernatural, artificial intelligence where there's sentience or a sense of self-awareness, in my opinion, will not be achieved through computer programming. It will be achieved through demon possession. Even the Vatican now is trying to find more exorcists. And by the way, it's not just simply related to the Vatican. People are having meltdowns, and here's the reason why. You can talk about the gates of hell as being a metaphor, but then you can see the people that are expressing what I would call total demonic behavior, whether it's cannibalism, whether it's ritual vampirism, whether it's literal vampirism or zombieism, pedophilia. And here's the thing, pedophilia, let me make it clear to everybody, that goes back to the Canaanites. In our True Legends series, the DVD series, we're dealing with the Canaanite presence in the Americas, both on the East Coast and South America, North America, and we're talking about the things that precede, 3,000 years ago at the time of, quote-unquote, the giants. And this is critical, flood and after the flood, because the Bible says there were giants in those days, both before the flood and after those, and the ones before the flood were bigger. Now, listen, for the first time in history, I have got somebody on record who's got on record, I'm always dealing with this question, well, if they're really giants, where are all the bones? I've gone back and researched, and with the help of others too, the newspaper articles from the late 1800s into the early 1900s, even to the point in your part of the country where they've found, skeletal remains up to 21 feet. Now, why is this critical? I just said that the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory has proven through a new technology that they can basically look at the proteins in bones, even of deceased people. They don't have to be fresh bones, but they can follow the lineage back. So understand, anything that would give credence or not prove the Bible, but tell people and show people, hey, the Bible's real when it talks about this stuff, the fact that there was a supernatural element. In the word xenogenesis, it means adding a third strand of DNA, separate and distinct from either the parent, the husband, or the wife. So when we're talking about transhumanism and the hybrid age, we're already seeing the hybridization of animals, and it's gone beyond growing human ears on a mouse's back. It's gone beyond, Greg, everything that would be sane and even rational. So here's the formula simply for the transhumanists. Mankind that God created, and even some of the people that are atheists who have turned to agnostics, they're getting to the point where, look, their paradigm has painted them into a corner. But the agnostics and the atheists are going to be confronted more and more with the supernatural. And so when you deal with the history of the Third Reich, you held up my book, Empire Beneath the Ice, and notice this, what was it, last week they're saying, oh, Hitler died in the bunker in Berlin. The Russians have his jawbone. It proves nothing. It's total Bravo Sierra. It's total bull manure. And the fact is that when the History Channel ran their hunting Hitler and all the different authors, he ended up in Argentina. But I even had a guy whose great-grandfather was with his delegation. They moved him to Peru, too. And Peru has such vast underground citadels, and it's really covered up and covered over. So why am I saying all this? Everything that we're getting right now in the world on AI, on sex robots. Now, listen, when I started talking about that 20 years ago, people just rolled their eyes back, and they thought of inflatable dolls. But if you notice now, they're talking about being able to create stem cells out of skin cells and create sperm and ovum. In essence, they're looking at reproduction outside of the human body. They're looking at the pod creatures. In other words, they have to have them in some kind of a contained uterus being pumped full of nutrients. But, Greg, from the people I've talked to over the years and being on talk radio 25 years as a host, I know a lot of people. I don't know them personally. The two things I never ask people are their names. I'll ask them what they did and where they are. I say, I don't care about it. Don't use any names to me. And I have a repertoire of stuff that I've been told. And I believe the Bible's pretty clear on this. In the mouth of two or three witnesses, let every word be established. So when my research brings me to the conclusion and these people show up and appear, in my, if you will, visual perceptive field or audio, if they're just calling me on the phone, I have ways of checking stuff out. I have ways of checking things out, and the thing is that I can only share this with you. There are people out there, there are good people in the intelligence field. There are even good people in the military. However, the ones that I knew in the military have all been, quote, retired courtesy of Obama. One of the things that is critical that people understand is that when you're dealing with singularity, when you're dealing with men becoming machines, when you're dealing with the assimilation of the human genome into the machines, and obviously Star Trek the Borg, a great thing. When you're dealing with Google becoming Skynet, when you're dealing with autonomous killing machines, there are AK-47s, which is a military rifle, but there are also AKMs, and that's kind of my acronym for automatic killing machines or autonomous killing machines. And now we've seen all of the robotics being fielded. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency is even generating robots, if you will, micro drones, micro insects, micro bats to go into every cave, every nook, cranny, every underground, you name it. They want to basically map every underground known place of escape, and they're doing it with robotic insects, robotic reptiles. Imagine that. Everything that you can think of that you can turn into a robot. And then they're sending escape from what? We know this, that there's going to be so many calamities on the surface of the earth that people, the Bible even talks about the rich men of the earth hiding themselves in the clefts of the rocks trying to escape what's coming to the earth. But it's not just what's coming on the earth, it's coming up from under the earth. And see, that's what the gates of hell are all about. And people get mad. They want to hear all the cool stuff, but they don't ever want to hear about God. They never want to hear about Jesus. Well, that's just your truth. That's just your paradigm. Oh, really? If the Bible's telling us what's coming to pass, and it's coming to pass as it is, even the Ancient Aliens guys have to refer to the apocalypse of St. John, the book of Revelation. So, the idea in all this to control the knowledge base of what's under the ground, the caves. And by the way, Greg, I sent you that. I think it's a 28-page report from DARPA itself. So when we're done with the interview, take a look at it. Yeah. But the reason this is critical is that at some point, the devil wants the termination and the extinction of every last man, woman, and child on the planet. And he's promising those who have gone into a relationship with him that if they sign up with him, they'll have eternal life, they'll have eternal pleasure, they'll have plenty of the planet to rule for their own kingdoms. And, there's just one problem. You got to get rid of all those people that don't want to become part of the Luciferian New World Order. And I think one of their spokesmen said this, it's been quoted numerous times, but by consent or by conquest, there will be a New World Order. Well, they're upset about because something interrupted what they thought was their smooth entrance into the future with no resistance. And God always provides his ram in the bush. That simply means that when there's no way out, God will give us a way out. And I also believe that it's a time of reflection. The reason I supported Trump and support President Trump is because when I saw who hates him, and they're those same people that hate me, the same people that control all the news, Greg, that control you on YouTube, that control me and everybody else trying to just tell people what's going on. That's why they've resorted to the elite, to the electromagnetic warfare that is against all of us through the televisions, the smart TVs, the smartphones. Well, pretty much everybody in the Obama administration, everybody who was any of the think tank people, everybody who was ever a globalist, everybody who was secretaries of defense, let's just say this, it was everybody other than a few voices. Basically, one of the strongest voices out there was Ron Paul, and followed by Rand Paul tells the truth, and he's one of the few that does. Look at Trey Gowdy. I used to think that guy was okay, and then, basically now he's saying, anything the FBI. By the way, I want to share something with your listeners and your viewers. Lawlessness is what is rampant in the United States. If the Department of Justice is withholding from the Congress documents that they were supposed to have released, if the FBI is covering up the greatest collusion against a presidential candidate who is now president, if you've got the national security advisors under Obama, the head of the CIA, the head of DIA, the head of everything, national security advisor Susan Rice, all these people, they were all against him. And remember the mocking. And when you've got the shills from hell, the mainstream media, ABC, NBC, CBS, in my opinion, all hating on him. I mean, you'd expect Rob Reiner and The View to obviously not like anything. And then you see the background of the Soros-funded movements. I mean, we've got, in essence, you see people being arrested who are doing no violence, and those who are violent being released back on the streets. So the judicial system under this country hangs by a thread, and people have got to understand that, in my opinion, things change after Donald Trump. Do I believe he'll get reelected? Yes. Do I think everything goes to hell faster even during the second period of his presidency? Yes. But again, it'll be the best of times during the worst of times, and it's really a tale of two countries, not a tale of two cities.